Assalamu alaikum, brothers, dear guests and students. Today, I'm going to make a presentation surrounded by neuroscience. So there are some students and academic staff here related, having some studies related to neuroscience or computer science or neurology. So I hope I'll be able to contribute to your still ongoing processes. So first of all, since there are some students over here which are not familiar with neuroscience, I'm going to make a short definition of neuroscience. Then I'm going to start my presentation. So let's start the definition of a very general definition of neuroscience. Probably many of you heard about neuroscience, but the definition of or the content of neuroscience is quite important. Mainly, the neuroscience consists of biology, medicine, computational data analysis, engineering, and psychology. So as Shafkat Ali, one of our staff, told, the interdisciplinary studies, the contribution of multiple disciplines is quite important for neuroscience. So the combination of those 5 main disciplines is the base of neuroscience. So neuroscience is the study of human nervous system and how the nervous system works, how it is structured, and how it develops. The large majority, that's why after knowing the reason how, or after knowing the methodology of the way the brain works, it's possible to map the brain and find solutions for the psychiatric disorders. So knowing the way how brain works is quite important, and the structural combination of the nervous system is quite important. The large majority of neuroscientists focus their research on the brain and how it influences cognitive function and behavior. Neuroscience not only seeks to understand how the nervous system functions under normal circumstances, but also how the nervous system functions in individuals suffering from neurological, neurodevelopmental, and psychiatric disorders. Those charts are quite important, which underlines the way neuroscience goes for the future. So, as you see from the first figure, I'm going to use this way. As you see from the first figure, the black line represents the neuroscience studies. So the number of PhD, the number of students having PhD theses, as you see, there's a sharp increase beginning from 2008. So beginning from 2008, a huge inclination to neuroscience emerged. So the people beginning from, it's 10 years ago, the people started working on their PhD or master thesis on neuroscience. You see there is a comparatively sharp increase on neuroscience. And on the second figure, number of publications times 1,000, you see beginning from 2006 to 2015, and a slight increase still exists on the second figure. You see there are 35,000 publications are submitted and published on neuroscience journals, and the number of neuroscience studies are still increasing in time. Whereas on the third figure, you see there is a red plot over there. It represents the cumulative publications. It could be papers, poster publications, or books. The number of neuroscience publications are increasing sharply beginning from 2016. So the world is focusing mainly on neuroscience in terms of academic studies or in terms of applications. And the number of neuron-related articles that is collected from PubMed search increases sharply beginning from 1960. So in universities, the people are mostly focusing on neuroscience studies, since the number of studies focusing on brain is still not enough. So there are 3 main goals of neuroscience: understanding the human brain and how it functions, understand and describe how the central nervous system develops, matures, and maintains itself, analyze and understand neurological and psychiatric disorders, and discover methods to prevent or cure them. For the following presentations, I'm going to give a concrete example of neuroscience application in our MP Istanbul hospital. We have some psychiatric disorders, multiple number of psychiatric disorders, and by using neuroscience methods, application methods, we could classify, first of all, we could diagnose the disorders by using pre-treatment data and predict the treatment response on the subjects. And there are quite a number of subcategories for neuroscience. I'm not going to just read all the explanations of each neuroscience subcategory, but I'm just going to read the main titles: behavioral neuroscience, cellular neuroscience, affective neuroscience. They're all subtitles of neuroscience. As I mentioned before in my former 4 figures, since the number of research studies or academic studies are increasing in terms of their publications, those subtitles are also their main focus of interest. Clinical neuroscience, computational neuroscience, that's what we are mainly focusing on, developmental neuroscience, cultural neuroscience, molecular neuroscience, neuroengineering, neuroinformatics, neuroimaging, neurolinguistics, neurophysiology, paleoneurology, social neuroscience, and system neuroscience. What about the carriers of neuroscience? So what are the people, what are they gonna do when they complete their neuroscience education? Mainly they are gonna work at hospitals or at universities, but there, as I mentioned before, for subcategories, those are the carriers in neuroscience, and they are futuristic applications. They could be neuroscientists. It's a very general definition, but it's a general title for someone who studies the nervous system. He or she could be the doctor or engineering, but the way that he applies is the neuroscience methods on data. Neuroanatomist, neurobiologist, neurochemist, neurological surgeon again, neurologist, and neuropharmacologist. Neurophytologist, neuropsychologist, neuropharmacologist, neurodiologist, psychobiologist, psychiatrist, neuroscience nurse, and psychiatrists. That curve is quite important, and that's from Gartner, a research company. That hype cycle, each and every year, they give that hype cycle for emerging technologies. And as you see, each and every shape represents different things. For example, that yellow triangle represents the technologies that are going to be on plateau level. Plateau level means they will be used as products. So, for example, for that yellow triangle, let's find any of the emerging technologies over here. Let's say exoskeleton. So in 10 years, that hype cycle represents that in 10 years, exoskeletons are going to be used by people. But when you look up the top here, which represents peak of inflated expectations, which are highly expected technologies. So you see deep neural networks over here, biochips, IoT, probably you heard many of those things, but I'm gonna mention Internet of Medical Things. So those technologies are mostly expected emerging technologies, and mostly, as you see from their colors, blue and dark blue, beginning from 2 up to 10 years, the people are going to be using those technologies in their own life. For example, I'm going to mention Internet of Medical Things. Some patients are still using Internet of Medical Things to collect data from their own bodies by swallowing some pills, to collect data from their own bodies and to send them via wireless communication to their doctors. So that's quite important for emerging technologies, 2018. Since the peak of inflated expectations are surrounded by artificial intelligence, we switched or shuffled our work of study on healthcare. Since health is always going to be the main focus of people, we will always need healthcare. So healthcare is quite important, and the way to be diagnosed or the duration of diagnosis or correct diagnosis process are quite important for people. So the application of artificial intelligence technologies are quite important for health. And I'm going to share a video, a study that is still being applied in China. By the way, the number of people older than 65 in 2030 will be 300 million. So it's not possible to present or to serve medicine service to those number of people. It's not going to be possible. So you need a quick diagnosis and treatment processes. So China is using artificial intelligence in healthcare applications. So as I mentioned before, the one on the very right represents built-in microsensor which sends signals to the doctors that are collected from the subject's body. So it transfers all those data by using a wireless communication, and the doctor could warn or call or say to the patient that you should take your drug or you should come to the hospital. So you just don't need to go to the hospital. You just collect your data. I mean, those devices just collect data from your own body, and they send those information data via wireless communication technologies to your medicine, to your doctor, and then you communicate with your doctor. So before starting the video, let me share some details about that video. In China, that's an ongoing project, by the way, they use artificial intelligence technologies to compare the performance of elite doctors of China with artificial intelligence applications in terms of their diagnosis performance. So you're going to see the results of elite doctors in China and the performance of artificial intelligence applications. I'm just sharing that video just in order to underline the importance of artificial intelligence and the performance of artificial intelligence. So could you please run the video? Yeah, on the bottom. Could you please play? Yes. The performance of artificial intelligence, 85, and in 15 minutes for 225 cases. And the performance of doctors, 63, 66. Second application, the duration, the doctor's performance, and the duration of doctors.
它不制造疲劳，它稳定。这个工具给临床换来的作用，可能是过去历史。
The most important point here is this. You may ask, how could the performance of artificial intelligence be better than the doctors? Artificial intelligence or deep learning algorithms runs by using the data, by using massive data actually, by using the data that are collected from all subjects. I mean, you don't need to get the whole number of subjects from the patients. You just get data from, let's say, multiple number of subjects, then you process data. If you have more subjects, which means more data, the deep learning algorithms or the artificial intelligence applications work better. So they just need more data. Since the resolution or the technology, since the technology is developing and the resolution of the devices are getting better, we collect high resolution data that is quite valuable for artificial intelligence and deep learning algorithms. And what about the studies at Uskudar University? As our rector, Professor Dr. Tarhan said, we have many subjects suffering from different psychiatric disorders. So it's quite valuable to diagnose before they are having their treatments. So when they come to our hospital, we collect data before starting their treatment, and we process that data in order to find the correct treatment process. So I'm going to give an example from one of our studies, but before that, let me give a brief information about the studies that are being run in our university. We have let me share the research and development and laboratories here. Clinical Neuroscience Laboratory, Cognitive Neuroscience Laboratory, Neurobiofeedback Laboratory, Neurotechnology and Bioinformatics Laboratory, Electroencephalography, Electroneurophysiology Laboratory are the research and development laboratories. And we have also master and PhD degree programs in our institutes. Neuroscience master's degree program, Neuroscience PhD degree program, Molecular Neuroscience PhD degree program, and Health Informatics master degree program. So by the way, we are doing all those studies with our master and PhD degree students. They have their contributions in our studies. And that is the chart that represents the main focus of our studies that are published in our university. As you see, mainly they are all published in Web of Science core collection journals, and 9 of those papers, which are SCI publications, 9 of those publications are related to psychiatry, 30 of them are material science, 27 of them are pharmacology, and you see neuroscience over there, 23, the purple one. So it's an emerging field, and many of our researchers and academic staff are focusing on neuroscience, and we have a quite good number of neuroscience-related papers. And those are our collaborating countries. I'm looking for India, as you. We have 13 publications published with Indian partners. So we're going to be happy to increase that number, since there are quite a high number of staff here related to neuroscience or computer science, neurology. So we're going to be happy to collaborate with you to increase that number. So studies at Uskudar University. I'm just going to mention mainly the titles. Treatment response prediction means you're going to apply some treatment process to the subjects, but it's possible to predict the response of a treatment process. So you're going to just predict the response of a treatment process, so that you can change or switch your treatment process in order to treat your subject shortly. Disorder classification, that's quite important. Some disorders are quite similar. So there are computational methods which are used to classify disorders by using pre or post-treatment data. Biomarker studies, that's the third one, is the one that we are mainly focusing on. We are using quite different methodologies in order to find new biomarkers. For example, new emerging biomarkers. One of the most well-known one is entropy. But deep learning algorithms are using unprocessed data. So deep learning algorithms are also quite important in order to find new biomarkers. That's quite important. Artificial intelligence applications, computational neuroscience, and main scope of our research in silico and in vitro studies, brain disorders and diseases, precision medicine, cognitive neuroscience, clinical neuroscience, molecular neuroscience, neuropharmacology, brain imaging, neuromodulation, and neurobiofeedback applications. So that's the theoretical base. That's okay. So what did we do at Uskudar University? So what kind of studies are we performing there? A recent study that we are using nature-inspired algorithms that I'm going to mention as artificial B algorithms. They are all, you see on the left corner, ant-colony optimization, particle swarm optimization, and artificial B algorithms are the ways to find the optimum solution for a problem. So we are using artificial, in our example, we are going to use artificial B algorithm in order to find, that's quite important, more informative features of EEG. There are multiple frequency bands, there are multiple EEG channels, but which one or which are much more informative compared to the other channels or frequency bands. So those are the nature-inspired algorithms that we are using to find the optimum solution. And I'm going to share the results with you. So let's start how the algorithms run. First of all, I'm not going to focus on the mathematical background, but I'm just going to give brief information about them. The ants, there are 3 types of ants. You see scout bees, worker bees, and observer bees. And each and every bee tries to find a better nectar to come when they come to their nest, which is called hive. The nest of a bee is called hive. So from now on, I'm going to say hive. So yes. So when suppose that you consumed all the nectar in the hive. So when a new bee goes to find new nectar, it's called scout bees, to find a new nectar. But how do they find a new nectar? I mean, they just leave their nest, the hive, I mean. How do they find new nectar? I mean, what is the way, or what is the method they find to find a better nectar? I'm going to open a video, the next slide, but before that I'm going to give a theoretical background. The scout bees tries to find nectars. Then they come to their nest. That's quite important. They come to the nest and give that information to all other bees by using Waggle dance. They give the direction of the nectar, they give the quality of the nectar, and they give the time to go to that point. So each and every scout bee coming to the hive inform all other bees about the nectar he or she, whatever, found. But it's not the way, I don't know. So when they come to the hive, they just give information to all other bees in the hive. So how do you select the better solution? I mean, we have to suppose that I'm one of the bees in the hive. So which one I'm going to select? So you have to observe each and every one to find the best fitting one. What do I mean saying best fitting? The closest one with highest quality. Yeah. No. The one who comes to the hive gives information about the quality of the nectar. So they just listen. I'm going to open the video. They just listen to the bee, the worker bee. Yeah, I'm going to open that Waggle dance. So when they observe the Waggle dancing bee, they get the information from the bee. And they know the direction, they know the duration to go to the nectar, and the quality of the nectar. Okay, so the last equation given on the left is the probability, which means each and every observer bee observes the coming bees and decides the probability of choosing the best one. So this is the mathematical background that we applied. And I'm going to open the video and you're going to see the real bees.
Honeybee workers are able to send complex messages to one another. In the wild, they sometimes nest out in the open, but mankind has persuaded them to live and store their honey in hives. The colony's heart is its queen. She is just a little bigger than her subjects and mother of them all.
So they are going out to find
In spring,
new nectars.
when food stocks are low, the workers get busy collecting nectar. They have a remarkable method of telling one another where to find the most productive flowers. It's called the Waggle dance. This returning bee has just found a new source of nectar and is going to tell others in the hive about it. First, she gathers an audience. To do that, she climbs on her sister's backs and vibrates
is the newcomer
her
one.
abdomen.
So telling giving information about
Now
the
that she's
nectar
got their attention,
she found.
she begins her dance, using a code of movements that tell her fellow workers where her discovery lies.
All the others are listening to her, trying to understand the quality, the way, the direction of the nectar.
The duration of her waggle indicates the distance to the nectar source. The longer the waggle, the further the flower. And the angle at which she dances across the comb tells them the direction to the flower in relation to the sun.
So the direction gives, the angle gives the direction
Her
according to the sun.
instructions are remarkably accurate and can pinpoint the location of a nectar source over 6 kilometers away. Some of her fellow workers set off immediately to find it. In one short season, the colony's workers will visit up to 500 million flowers and will make around 90 kilograms of honey. That is sufficient to sustain the whole colony through the coming winter when there is no nectar to be had.
So when we watched that video, we also applied the mathematical background, as you see on the former slide. We found 2 verses in Nahl Surah. So I'm going to share that 2 verses with you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأوحى ربك إلى النحل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر ومما يعرشون ثم كلي من كل الثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك لآية لقوم يتفكرون.
The next part, the second verse, is quite important, the one with bold text you see over here. Follow the ways of Allah laid down for you. So you watch the video over there. So each and every bee knows the way that they are supposed to follow. And I'm going to share with you the result of our studies. Sorry? Yes, very precisely, you're right. And all those studies, papers are written by using the Natureinspired algorithms, and I'm going to share with you the outcome, the result of the paper that we used for artificial bee algorithm. You see there are a number of features, 48 features to classify major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder subjects. So we have 48 features over here. Let me show you. 48 features, but it's quite a large number of features to classify the disorders. When we used artificial bee algorithm, that's also called particle swarm optimization algorithm, the bees selected 22 of those 48 features, which are much more informative compared to other features. And the output, the classification performance of the new model is 80%, almost 80%. But at the first step, you see the classification performance was just 62%, while classifying major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder subjects. But the new classification accuracy is quite high compared to the first state. And those are the frequency bands, delta, theta, and alpha frequency bands. And the features that are given on the table are the features that are selected by our artificial bees. So by using artificial bees, we increased the classification of performance of our model, which classifies the subjects suffering from major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder. And that is the rker that are used to compare different models. The best performing one is the one using artificial bee algorithm. And I need to share that chart video. On the left, you see raw data. You may have raw data. Without processing raw data, it's meaningless. But on the video that you watched for artificial bees, or the paper that we did, represents the wisdom. So by using the information, it's not valuable by itself. So you have to understand the insight or the wisdom of the data in order to find something. What is that something? I mean, we are all being scientists doing our research studies, but the main focus of our studies to understand the creation of human, or to understand God better, or understand our creature better. So all our studies are, the main focus of our studies are finding the wisdom. Thank you.
المهنة والحلم السماء والأون والتقني حمار